Hello, thank you for joining the training called Advanced Donor Check-In and Role of the Donor Ambassador, a new process that is being rolled out in your region in the coming weeks. Take just a minute and think about what got you started volunteering with the Red Cross. Jot your thoughts on the paper in front of you. As we go through the training and then experience some of the changes as donor ambassadors, keep this reason in mind to help you past some of the bumps that'll be in our road along the way. First, let's talk or look quickly at the equipment updates that have occurred in the past few years. The name of this particular change is called the Collections Equipment Refresh Program. We've already seen stages 1 and stage 2, and you can see some of the samples of things that are here. In particular, on the right hand side, stage 2, the donor tablets, and the 2 laptops that are just below that, those are the ones that are being used by the collections team members. Stage 3 is now rolling out across the country, region by region. It'll take about a year and a half to complete. Our rollout date is coming up in about a month, and it does involve a lot of hours of classroom training for the collection staff and some changes for both donors and donor ambassadors. Some of these changes are behind the scenes, but we've got a picture of it here on slide 5, and you can see a new server and software, new donor identification process and check-in, which of course will impact all of our donor ambassador team, a national database, which means if we did not have new identification process, it would take a long time to sort through that to find each donor. Improved transfer of data, which happens sort of behind the scenes with the collections group, and new containers to make sure that all the equipment is safe along the way. What we're hoping to accomplish with the stage 3 process is a streamlined self-scanning check-in process where donors would scan in a donor ID card, driver's license, or active military ID, or they can type in their name and date of birth. An online schedule of appointments available 2 hours prior to the drive versus those that today are being printed a couple days in advance sometimes. This hopefully will cut down on the number of donors who made an appointment but are not on the printed schedule. We still see some. We've rolled this out in Connecticut, and there are still some who don't show up on the schedule but did schedule an appointment, so we still need to be prepared for that. Hopefully what will happen is because the computer is setting up a queue for the donors, it takes away that responsibility from the donor ambassadors, and donor ambassadors now can focus on engaging with donors, providing great customer service. You've probably seen similar kinds of self-check-in or check-out kiosks at places in your community. Here we have pictured a restaurant at the top right, a pharmacy, in the center is a bank, and to the left on the bottom is an airline. Often the success of these is because people move more quickly through the queue, through the waiting line, and the success is also because there's someone nearby to help out. As donor ambassadors, you play that critical role in the donor's experience, welcoming the donor, assisting them if they have questions, and helping with that self-check-in process. As you do now, you will continue to provide great customer service, greeting, welcoming, and facilitating a positive donor experience. You'll ensure that donors receive their promotional items, the giveaways that the recruitment team has for them. You'll encourage donors to schedule their future appointment, currently on paper. Ideally, it will be through the donor tablet. And of course, with every single donor, we're really looking forward to having you thank them for coming in. Let's look at the list here of donor ambassador responsibilities. I imagine it's pretty similar to what you're working on today. Greeting and welcoming the donor, assisting with check-in and name tags, converting whole blood donors to Power Red so that they make the biggest impact with their blood donation, sharing promotions, assisting in using Rapid Pass and donor tablets, encouraging donors to set their next appointments, which at the moment is still pretty much on paper, but we will be ideally using the donor tablets, and then encouraging donors who are waiting to download the Red Cross Donor app. As you can see, your role as donor ambassador remains a vital piece of the donor's positive experience. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what the donor will see. The new Donor Quick Guide will be available at the reception desk. It outlines for both donors and donor ambassadors the changes in the enhanced donor check-in process. Step 1 says, read the welcome or stop sign. There will be a printout of the stop sign information at the reception or registration table if there's not a large cardboard sign. Step 2 asks the donor to complete Rapid Pass or the pre-reading material if they have not done Rapid Pass prior to arrival. A written copy of the pre-reading can be printed by the charge if a donor is not comfortable, but the preferred method is to complete Rapid Pass using smartphone and redcross.org or by using the donor tablets option 1. Option 2 on the donor tablet is an electronic copy of the pre-reading material, and the advantage to using that over the written is that there are a couple of qualifying questions asked first, gender for instance, and age, over 19 or under 19, and that will mean that the reading is shorter because they're not reading information that's not pertinent to the donor themselves. Where you play a critical piece is to help make the steps clear, that it's step 1 and 2 and check-in is not until step 3, and of course to help them find the different pieces they need before they check in. So let's see what the new equipment will look like. As you can see in this picture, it's very similar to what we have today, except that the scanner's on a stand. It makes it much easier for the donor to angle their ID and be read easily. The scanner does stay on. There's nothing you need to do with it. It reads the ID as soon as it's underneath versus having to pull the trigger. And the laptop itself is designed so that it will stay on the welcome page, which we'll get to in just a moment. It will stay on the welcome page without constant logging in from the Red Cross team members. Once the donor reaches step 3 and is ready to check in, this is the screen that they'll see. If the laptop has gone to sleep, then it's just a matter of touching the mouse pad or the screen itself in order to wake it back up, and then this screen will appear. It says, welcome to donor check-in, and the next step is to touch that screen or the mouse pad, and it will move to the next step. This next step is asking the donor, how would you like to check in today? And the 3 options are using Red Cross donor ID, using a state-issued or military ID, which is a license or driver's license, non-driver's license, or military ID, or neither ID. It says tap here, and that will take them to a screen where they can enter their name and their date of birth. In this particular example on screen 15 or slide 15, the person has selected Scan Donor ID. And you can see that there's a box, and in that box it will capture the information that the scanner is pulling from the donor identification, the Red Cross donor identification. Typically, once that info is all gathered from the scanner, it will submit itself. If you click submit ahead of time, that works fine. It's not a problem. I do want to point out in the upper right hand corner, there's a return to start button. And so if somebody said, oh wait, I can't find my ID, then they can click that return to start and just start that back up again. And there's no problem doing that as many times as is needed. Once the identification is scanned, then the system will acknowledge who this is. In this case, the donor's name is Howard, and it says, "Hello, Howard, confirm your appointment information." And you can see here that it says in the center that it says platelets donation 4:30 p.m. If that's correct, and it's between 4:15 and 4:45, then Howard should click yes. He is accepting that time that he set up earlier. Once Howard clicks yes, the system will ask, like you did at the beginning as donor ambassador, have you completed your rapid pass? Once Howard clicks yes, that he did complete his rapid pass, he'll see the last thank you screen with a note to wait for the Red Cross member to call him into health histories. Name tags are available on the tables. Either the donor or you as donor ambassador will write the donor's name on the tag. To ensure we're providing the best possible customer service, we're going to use two systems. In addition to the computer check-in list being created at that front desk, we're also asking donors to put their preferred name and the current time on the name tag. If they're a walk-in, they add a W. If a Power Red donor, they add a sticker. As we did prior to Stage 3 rollout, the name tags will be placed on a table in order. The collections team member will call the next donor based on the name tag times. The updated volunteer quick guide seen at the end of this deck explains this in step 4. A note about the name tags. Although red and green name tags may still be available at blood drives, you really only need to use one color. New name tags have been created and are being distributed, so if you haven't seen them yet, you may soon. And first-time donors are acknowledged in the health history and by you, the donor ambassador, if a donor mentions it. While the donors are waiting, please offer water or information on downloading the donor app if they have not already done so. Let's look at a couple more screens to see what they might look like. The next two screens are scanning driver's license and military IDs. When a donor scans their driver's license or military ID, a similar thing happens as the Red Cross ID. We'll see a series of dots or numbers, and then the donor or the machine itself will go ahead and submit that. I do want to point out some of the difficulties of scanning a state driver's license. Any driver's license ought to work in any state, so that's positive. But sometimes the barcodes are very close together, as pictured on the right-hand side. The barcode that is to be scanned is the mottled or dots or paint spattered one versus the bars. Some states have two of these, and they, as you can see, very close together. It's important that the donor scan the mottled one or the paint spattered one. It may mean covering up the barcode versus the modeled one, and sometimes having a sticky note or a piece of paper to do that will make that easier. If there is trouble scanning the ID, the donor can click Cancel and return to the sign-in page and click No ID, Sign In, and type in their name and date of birth. At that point, the name they're typing in should be the one that they typically use when donating blood. Here's the screen the donor will see if they click Neither ID. You can see that the donor types in their first name, last name, date of birth, and then they do need to click Submit. One note about this is that the donors really do need to use the name they donated with in the past, particularly if a donor previously used their maiden name but is now married. They need to make sure to type in their maiden name. Then once they're in the health history registration, the team member will help get that squared away and get them registered with both names. Once the donor clicks Submit, the following screen appears. As you can see, this confirms the donor's name and date of birth. Howard Jones, born on 4/21 of 03. If for some reason this is incorrect, like the date of birth might be wrong for Howard, then the donor would click Close and try again. This screen shows what a walk-in would see once they've checked in by ID or name. Schedule appointment is across the blue bar. Then it says we don't find an appointment for you. Please continue and schedule your appointment now. And then it says, choose the type of donation for your appointment today. So if we use Howard Jones, he's arrived and did do his rapid pass, but does not have an appointment, then he would pick the type of donation. Typically in a mobile blood drive, it would either be blood or Power Red. And the platelet and plasma options would be seen when we're at a fixed site and not when we're out at mobile drives. Once a donation type is picked, the available appointment times appear for the donor to choose. The donor then picks the appointment time that best fits their schedule from the appointment selection screen. The example here shows one appointment slot at 1 p.m. and 2 slots available at 1:15. If a donor doesn't see the appointment time that suits them best, they can click Standby. This is the same as what we currently call a walk-in. On the Health History Registration laptop, the Red Cross staff will see the list of donors and the time they have been waiting. The status of this donor will be standby, and like walk-ins at Drives Now, the name tag will read W. Walk-in or standby donors will be called after all appointments at this particular time have been taken. Please note that if a donor made their appointment the same day of the blood drive, but after the 2-hour cutoff prior to the start of the drive, their appointment will not show up in the system. For example, a blood drive that runs from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., if the donor made a 4 o'clock appointment at 2 p.m. that day, they will not show up. They're still recognized as having an appointment despite seeing the message, "We don't have an appointment for you. Please continue to schedule your appointment." The donor's appointment slot may still be available in the system and can be selected on this screen. If not, the donor clicks the closest appointment time to their arrival. If by chance there is not an appointment close to the donor's arrival time, you can let the charge person or lead person know, and an accommodation to consider this donor as scheduled will be made. Remember the screen that asked, "Have you done Rapid Pass?" If the donor replied no, this is the screen they'll see. It's really more of an educational or promotional screen to let the donor know how easy it is to complete Rapid Pass, shows the 4 steps, how to get started. It's just one more way to encourage the donor to do Rapid Pass in the future. We also, of course, have the small business card that talks about Rapid Pass. And if the donor's waiting a minute or two, that would be a great time to show them how to access that through the donor app. On this particular screen, the donor clicks OK, thanks, and we'll get the thank you screen. Let's take a moment to talk about the mobile bus or self-contained unit. The donor check-in computer is now part of the system, and donors must use it. However, there can be connectivity issues if the bus is too far away from where registration is in the building. If that is the case, donors will wait until they're called onto the bus, where they will then register using the check-in system. As a donor ambassador, you'll be inside with the waiting donors. Hopefully, if connectivity is available, you'll have donor tablets, and if not, you will definitely have the pre-donation reading material. For those donors who have not done Rapid Pass, have them do the pre-reading on the tablet, or have them do, even better, have them do the Rapid Pass on either the donor tablet or their smartphones. This screen has a lot of details, so I'll walk through it carefully. This is talking about the donor flow or donor queue that the staff see and how best to help donors be taken as quickly as possible. The first one, if the donor has an appointment and he or she is on time, that's considered at the moment within 15 minutes before or 15 minutes after their appointed time, then of course their status will be checked in / on time. If they have an appointment but they're more than 15 minutes early or 15 minutes late, then they are assigned that status. The other option is when the time comes up, when it says, "Hello Howard, you have a 4:30 appointment for platelets," he could click no, comma, change selection, and see if there's an available appointment time closer to when they arrived. If so, here she can click that time and check in, and then their status will be checked in on time. The other option is to check in as a standby, and then they're in walk-in status. The other pieces that are a little bit quirky is if the donor has the last appointment of the day and they are more than 5 minutes after that appointed time, we most likely will not be able to give that appointment to him or her, but do check with the charge person to confirm. Donors throughout the day have a 15-minute window, but the last donor of the day only has a 5-minute window because we need to keep things moving and keep the mobile blood drive on time whenever possible. If the donor is a walk-in and comes in somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes before the end of the drive, he or she will be taken if there are available appointment slots, but will not be taken if there are no slots available for that time frame. So if the blood drive is ending at 6:30 p.m. and there is still an appointment available at 6:30, the walk-in can be seen. If there are no appointments available for 6:30, check with the charge to be sure, but most likely that walk-in will not be able to donate today. And that's why having some other blood drive opportunities available is important. One of the things that we really want to make sure you have access to is a chance to jot down concerns that you have once we start the rollout. So you have a couple options. You can reach out to your volunteer representative, or you can follow this link, which will be issued to you later in the training process as well, but you can follow this link to an online feedback form for your specific region. The pieces on the next few slides are some samples of things that we wanted you to be aware of, so we'll walk through each of those. This is an example of the appointment monitor that the employees see. You can see by the example here that Georgia Helms is donating blood. She checked in late for her 2:30 appointment and has been waiting for 31 minutes. Mary Planowski Cooper also checked in late, and she has been waiting 35 minutes. Her appointment time was 2:45. And then the last one is Robert Norris, also donating blood, also checked in late. He's been waiting 39 minutes, and he had an appointment at 2:45. If we had someone with an appointment and they were on time, they would show in green, and they would be at the top of the list. This screen or slide shows you the rollout schedule for the enhanced donor check-in. It started in Connecticut in May, and we will continue to roll out across the different regions for the Red Cross until the Great Lakes region in April of 2020. The volunteer quick guides have been updated to show the new process with the 2 initial steps, moving to step 3, donor check-in. And then we've also included a new volunteer quick guide helping with the tablets so that the tablets have a step-by-step process and you understand what to do with them to encourage their use for both Rapid Pass or for the pre-donation reading. This concludes our training on enhanced donor check-in and the role of the donor ambassador, but I do want to take a moment to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from all of us here at the Red Cross and the Biomed Volunteer Workforce Engagement Team. We truly appreciate what you do for us, what you do for the donors and what you do for the sponsors every day. I know things change a lot, and your willingness and capabilities certainly make those changes easier for all of us. Thanks so much.